Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you aboard the Humboldt Bay Maritime Museum's harbor cruise vessel, the Madaket. My name is Captain Steve, and our deckhand / bartender this afternoon is the impeccable Tiffany.
Hello, everyone.
As many of you might not know, the Madaket is the oldest continually operating passenger vessel in the United States. She was born on June 6, 1910, right here on Humboldt Bay. She is the flagship of the Humboldt Bay Maritime Museum. We hope to preserve and protect her for many generations to come. If you haven't joined us before, we'd like to invite you to join us in the future.
Captain Steve, you're the captain of an icon here in Humboldt County. Tell our audience how you became Captain Steve.
Many years ago, in the dark and distant past, I was a fisherman here on Humboldt Bay. I've been a resident of Humboldt County for 43 years. I've commercial fished for over 18 years here on Humboldt Bay. But then, in the early 90s, having noticed the decline in the fish populations in our local waters, I decided to go back to school and become a fisheries biologist. While at school, I realized that it might be beneficial to me and to those in my industry to become a captain of a research vessel. So I pursued that and became a captain 15 years ago. Since then, I have been working on research vessels up and down the coast of California, and in 2003, I became captain of the Madaket. This isn't a full-time job for me. This fills in between my research cruises during the season that the Madaket operates.
I hope you know that many of us for years have very delicious and delightful memories of riding on the Madaket. Around the bay, the scenery is absolutely exquisite. And you have added greatly to the memories and the joy of the citizens here in Humboldt County. When you take people out on this boat, tell us where you take them. Tell us the route and what they see.
It is absolutely my pleasure to be part of the Humboldt Bay experience for those who come here to visit our fine city. Humboldt Bay has an incredible maritime history dating back before the turn of the 19th century. It wasn't until very late that this bay was actually discovered. The very first white man to enter this bay was Captain Jonathan Winship on the American sailing vessel the O'Kane. They were being chartered by the Russian-American Fur Company to hunt otters and fur seals along our coastline. It happened to be a very calm day, so they actually saw the entrance into this bay. They came inside and found it to be occupied by a tribe of Native Americans called the Wheelhouse. We still have local Wheelhouse living in our community today. It's my pleasure to help those who come here to visit our wonderful bay to explore and learn about the wildlife and the history of Humboldt Bay. We start our tour by introducing the boat and the history of Humboldt Bay. We cruise up through the Arcata Channel, see the oyster beds, learn about the massacre on Indian Island, cruise down, hopefully see much of the wildlife, such as the egret rookery, the sites where the old First Baptist Church on Indian Island was. We see the remains of the old pulp mills, the new infrastructure for the lumber industry here on Humboldt Bay that hopefully will be taking off with the People's Republic of China. We see the old site of Fort Humboldt. Many people don't know that Humboldt Bay is the only deep water port between San Francisco and Portland. At high tide, the waters of Humboldt Bay cover an area of 60 square miles. Now that's an awful lot to try and cover in 75 minutes. There's way too much history for me to tell all the history of Humboldt Bay in 75 minutes. But we do the best that I can. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are probably sick and tired of hearing me yak by the time the cruise is over.
Actually, that's not true. When we get on the boat, it is so fun to feel the movement of the boat and to watch the birds and the wildlife around us that sometimes we're distracted from our history lesson.
Well, my job as captain of the Madaket is to entertain and educate my passengers. And I feel that if I haven't accomplished that by the end of the tour, that I'm not doing my job.
Well, you get an A. I think that shows by the fact that you've been here for a while and nobody wants to let you go.
This is actually my 10th season here on the Madaket. To me, I sound like an adult in a Charlie Brown cartoon. What really makes it worthwhile to me is having the passengers stand around afterwards and thank me for the wonderful time and experience they've had here on the Madaket.
It is a wonderful time and a beautiful experience. This is Tiffany. Tiffany is the social bartender and many more things. Actually, she adds a lot of spice, personality, charm, and help behind the scenes. Tiffany, tell folks just exactly what you do.
I'm a deckhand here on the Madaket. I have the privilege of being the person who sets the Madaket up in the morning and makes her beautiful for everyone to view. When the passengers come on the boat, I greet every person.
The Madaket couldn't operate without Tiffany. She's an incredible deckhand. She knows how to handle lines. She has special training in case of man overboard, fire, taking on water. She's very astute in knowing which lines to handle and giving me instructions, because I'm up in my pilot house, I can't see the stern of the boat. So without Tiffany instructing me how to maneuver the boat, the lines wouldn't get handled properly.
And let us not forget her great people skills. That is a #1 vital art when you're dealing with the public. Tiffany, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, as most people don't realize, that the Madaket is an icon of Humboldt Bay. She represents the maritime history of Humboldt Bay, as the Carson Mansion represents the lumber heritage of this bay. But you can't go on a tour of the Carson Mansion by walking up to the door. You can go on a tour of the maritime history of Humboldt Bay by coming to the foot of C Street and buying a ticket on the Madaket.
We are going to show the boat so they can have a brief camera tour. But before we do, Captain Steve.
The green vessel on the south end of Woodley Island there was designed and built by Professor Gass from Humboldt State University. It was built over there below the Samoa Cookhouse and launched into Humboldt Bay, and then the university decided that it wasn't what they wanted. They auctioned it off. Professor Gast and his brother were able to purchase it. These blackbirds you see in the water here are cormorants. There are 3 species of cormorant that visit us here on Humboldt Bay: the Brandt's cormorant, the pelagic cormorant, and the double-crested cormorant. It's quite common to see these birds perched out of the water, as unlike other marine birds, they lack the oil gland with which to waterproof their feathers. The fisherman's statue on the south end of Woodley Island was built by local artist Dick Crane. He was commissioned by the Humboldt Fishermen's Wives Association to complete this statue as a memorial for fishermen who have gone to sea and never returned. It is the largest welded copper statue in the nation. There is a larger copper statue, but it's riveted together. That's the Statue of Liberty. There, as we pan up the Arcata Channel, you can see the Samoa Bridge. That's the middle span of the Samoa Bridge. The Samoa Bridge was built in 1971 When this bridge was completed, it basically put the ferry boat service out of business. It heralded the end of ferry service here on Humboldt Bay. As we pan a little further to the left, we can see the north end of Indian Island. That north end of the island was the site of the Indian Island Massacre. The Wiots had a ceremonial village located out there. It was called Tulawat. The egret rookery in the center of Indian Island is a location where Robert Gunther built his mansion. Why anyone would ever build their mansion under an egret rookery, I'll never understand. There are two types of egret that use this rookery, the great or common egret and the snowy egret. They also share this rookery with their cousins, the great blue heron and the black-crowned night heron. Now as we pan a little further to the left, we see the last remaining privately owned property located on Indian Island. The north end of the island belongs to the Wiot tribe, and the rest is all federal wildlife sanctuary. The residents who live out there have to be pretty hardy individuals, as the only way to and from their homes is by boat. There are no off-ramps from the Samoa Bridge onto this island. This iconic home was the last home to be constructed here on Indian Island. It was built by Bob Imperial in 1972, and it sits on the approximate location of the old Sequoia Yacht Club. If you look closely along the shoreline, you can see some of the old pilings of the Yacht Club's docks. There is a building moratorium on the island now, and no new structures can be erected. Out on the North Spit there, beyond the end of Indian Island, we can see some logs stacked in a log deck. These logs have been stripped of their bark in preparation to be shipped to the People's Republic of China. This is one of our local fishermen on the fishing vessel El Maru, pulling up to the dock of Wild Planet Seafoods. Wild Planet deals only in sustainable yield fisheries products. This is Eureka Waterfront's new Fisherman's Terminal at the foot of C Street.
The Madaket Bar has been around since 1972. It was built by Bob Imperiali and has been the smallest licensed bar in the state of California ever since. So you can have a cocktail on any of our cruises. We do have a cocktail cruise. Wednesday through Saturday, the Madaket hosts her 1-hour non-narrated cocktail cruise. It starts at 5:30.
And it's really fun. Constantly changing glamorous scenery and weather.
Correct.
I was really impressed with the joy, the mood, the ride, the scenery. This boat is an icon in this area. It truly is.
It truly is, and I'm really honored to be one of the captains.
And this is the entrance to this glamorous and petite bar on the Madaket.
This is the Madaket's wheelhouse. You see, the helm is the original helm, 103 years old. Card icons you see on the helm here, they were put there to honor the ongoing card games that they had on these ferry boats for the men who went back and forth to the mills. Originally, the Madaket had a 2-stroke direct reversing engine in her. That meant that to have reverse, they had to kill the engine, switch the polarity on the starter motor, and start it in reverse. That must have made for some very exciting landings at the dock. You had a boatload of 65 people. I could imagine that some of them were pretty scared. You hoped it started. These tours on the Madaket help to support the Maritime Museum and maintain the Madaket throughout the year.
Go ahead.
Now, as we pull away from the dock, I will be sounding our main whistle, which is very loud and can be startling. So if you happen to have sensitive ears, you'll probably want to cover them up. I will let you know right before I sound the whistle. Here goes the whistle.
We're pulling away from the dock, and that whistle lets you know that this is real.
Now these gray and white birds you see flying in front of the boat here, most of you would call seagulls, but here in Madaket we prefer that you do not, because we're not on the sea, we're on the bay. Obviously, those are bagels. This mast protruding from the boardwalk on our right here with the multicolored placards going up and around the stay wires. These placards represent signal flags that were used to communicate between vessels prior to the invention of the two-way radio. Each placard stands for a letter of the alphabet that spells out, "Welcome to Eureka!" This gray building to our right is the Bayfront 1 building, the very first of the Bayfront building projects to be completed here on Humboldt Bay. The ground floor is the home of the Teppanyaki restaurant and Living the Dream Gelato Shop. The upper two floors are high-end condominiums. The green building set back from the shoreline to our right is the Vance Hotel. It's also on the Register of Historic Buildings here in the United States. This construction that's going on here has been going on for the last 2.5 years. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to build here. I don't know if they know what they're going to build here. But they will be extending the waterfront drive through to I Street. Next old dock coming up on our right was originally the old Eureka Fisheries I Street dock. But then Eureka Fisheries went out of business and Kaido Fisheries purchased this facility. There's some of their dock workers. They're on the dock right now. Give them a wave. Smile, you're on camera. Eureka Fisheries went out of business and Kaido Fisheries purchased this facility. It's now used as their fish buying station. All the fish that are delivered here are then trucked out of the area to be processed. The next building coming up on our right is the Humboldt State University Aquatic Center. Up on the hill to our right is the spectacular Humboldt County Jail. The light blue building coming up on the shoreline to our right is the Adorney Recreational Facility. Built by the late Harry Adorney and donated to the citizens of Eureka. Inside are basketball courts, volleyball courts, weight rooms, exercise rooms, and meeting rooms. Then up on the hill, we have the Queen of Victorian Mansions and the Madaket's counterpart, the Carson Mansion. Built by William Carson, one of the original lumber barons here on Humboldt Bay.
He had this home built during a slump of the timber industry to keep his men employed. It took 100 men 1 year to construct, and it's said to contain parts made of every type of commercially available wood to this day. It is no longer a private residence, but an exclusive club called the Ingomar Club, named after William Carson's favorite play, Ingomar the Barbarian. The dock just to our right here is the Bonnie Gould Memorial Guest Dock. Guest dock is used by vessels that are just transiting the coast and stopping here to visit Eureka. The open grassy area just beyond the shoreline to our right here is Halverson Park, the venue for many of our outdoor events here in Eureka during the summer. And overlooking Halverson Park, the brown and beige building with all the windows is the Humboldt County Library.
A lot of wildlife here in Humboldt Bay.
Very pretty.
This is with the Island Marina.
Now this marina coming up on our right here is the largest marina here on Humboldt Bay, home to many commercial and pleasure craft. Spectacular vessels such as the Surrender, just to our right here. This vessel is trimmed out in Honduran mahogany. We have another old classic vessel approaching on our right. This is the Arcturus.
Wow.
It was built in 1927. As they know, a research vessel helped to chart the Bering Sea. It's an iron hull vessel, which means its hull is made of iron plates that were riveted together. The same technology they used to build the Titanic. Only this vessel still afloat. It also had a cameo role in the Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe movie, Some Like It Hot. Just to our right here is a spectacular Coast Guard cutter, the 87-foot Barracuda. She's a state-of-the-art vessel, loved by her crew. She was the first one of her class to be deployed here on the West Coast. She has a steel hull and an aluminum superstructure, which helps to make her light and fast. This tugboat just to our right here, the Coos King, is the harbor pilot's tug. And up on the shoreline to our right there is the Cafe Marina. A lovely place to come and have a seafood lunch or dinner overlooking the harbor. Ahead of us here in the water, we have a group of cormorants. They must be feeding on a school of fish. Those are either Brandt's cormorant or double-crested cormorant. And over on the shoreline to our right there is a lighthouse structure. That lighthouse stood atop Table Bluff, which overlooks the entrance to Humboldt Bay. This lighthouse guided many a mariner safely across the treacherous Humboldt Bar. But then they built the jetties and put the lights on the ends of the jetties, and this lighthouse was no longer necessary. It was decommissioned and fell into disrepair. And in 1982, when they built the marina here, the Maritime Museum brought the structure to this location and had it restored for the citizens of Eureka.
Get a good view of the fisherman's statue.
Then on the very southern tip of Woodley Island, we have the fisherman's statue. That statue was created by local artist Dick Crane. He was commissioned by the Humboldt Fishermen's Wives Association to create this statue as a memorial for fishermen who have gone to sea and never returned. This green vessel just to our right here, the Coral Sea, is Humboldt State University's research vessel. A lovely research craft. It began its life on the East Coast, and originally it was named the Hernan Cortez. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been a wonderful time having you here on the boat joining us for this exploration of Humboldt Bay. We hope that you join us once again with your family and friends. Hope you've enjoyed being aboard as much as we've enjoyed having you aboard. I'd like to take this moment to ask you to please find a seat and remain seated until we're once again securely tied to the dock at the foot of C Street. Thank you very much.
So here on the Madaket, we start our cruises in April, and it will continue on until the end of September, early October, depending on the weather. If the weather keeps up like this, we'll be cruising throughout October.
That's pretty good. Something you can tell all your friends. Something you really shouldn't miss if you come to Eureka.
So if you have family visiting from out of town, and you want to share with them the unique hospitality and wonders of Humboldt Bay, we would highly recommend that you come join us on one of our narrated tours.
This is the beautiful Madaket. Captain Steve and Tiffany. This is an icon in Humboldt County. Beautiful, fun, and unforgettable. I'm filming this at the bottom of C Street in beautiful Eureka, California.